we know each other through Jane, your girlfriend, who I worked with on the Sanctuary art car a couple of years ago. And you're a VJ from Tahoe, but originally from the Midwest.
That's right. Yeah. Wisconsin originally, near Madison, small town called Cross Plains, about 30 minutes outside of Madison out in the country.
Nice.
And then I moved to Tahoe when I was 18 and have been kind of bouncing around Northern California, but mostly in Tahoe since 2006, actually.
Yeah. I was, I think I first saw your work through Facebook. People kept reposting the animations that you were doing.
Oh, cool.
Which were really, really next level. I come from a VJing background.
Thanks, man.
And it was, it's inspiring to see other people's work who are really pushing it.
Yeah, thanks, man.
How did you get into doing live visuals?
It started with just seeing cool imagery on the internet and in art galleries at festivals and stuff like that, and being especially the digital art, there was something about it where it just grabbed my attention, and I was really curious on how are these artists creating these images. I knew about Photoshop and stuff, but I didn't really know so much about a lot of the 3D softwares and rendering techniques. And I kind of started going on DeviantArt, and I discovered a software called Mandelbulb 3D, which is a fractal.
Mandelbrot? Or
Mandelbulb. Yeah. So you're familiar with Mandelbrot, who kind of pioneered fractal math. The Mandelbulb is a 3D representation of the Mandelbrot set. So it creates this kind of bulb shape that you would probably recognize from a lot of imagery in fractal art and stuff like that. But so Mandelbulb 3D was developed in 2009. It's free software. Anybody can use it, and you can render 3D fractals with it. It's kind of like a 3D graphing calculator in a way, where you have all these really cool fractal formulas already in there for you, and you're basically just exploring this fractal landscape.
Generative art.
Yeah, you find a cool spot and you take a render. And so I started making these fractal images, and around the same time that I started rendering with Mandelbulb, a friend of mine, Drew Zeisky, showed me some VJ software. I think it was Resolume and MadMapper at the time. And we kind of put two and two together, hey, I've got this little animation that I made of these fractals, and you've got this software that's made for playing videos. Let's make some, we're making our own stuff on day one, basically,
Well, generative visuals are definitely I feel like so many people find this world through generative visuals of some kind.
Yeah.
For me, it was video feedback.
Totally.
Right. And it, at first it was analog, and then it was using Max MSP.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just creating feedback loops.
Totally. Yeah, and you can get some legit fractals even just with feedback loops, even with analog, if you do the right rotations and
I think that
mirrors.
That feedback is a fractal. It's a fractal process.
It's that infinite mirror,
Absolutely, yeah. So was that back in Madison?
Yeah, I was back in Madison from 2013 till 2015, spending some time with my family, and decided to kind of pursue digital art that I'd been kind of observing and excited about, but not really pursuing it for maybe a year or two prior.
Yeah.
And decided to make it kind of a more serious pursuit, and learning fractal rendering software, learning other animation softwares, then started teaching myself Cinema 4D, After Effects, Photo, Adobe, that kind of thing.
Did you go to school for it?
No.
No school whatsoever?
I did go to school, not for graphics. I've definitely taken some online classes.
Yeah.
But those were more just pick up a week-long course or something from Gumroad or one of those, Lynda, whatever.
Dude, Lynda is so good, man.
There's a lot of stuff
I've learned
out there.
So many software packages through Lynda.
It's amazing how much information is out there now, and not even Lynda's great. Lynda's paid, but even just on YouTube, you can teach yourself. When it comes to 3D software, you can teach yourself the entire, start to finish for free on YouTube these days if you know where to look, So in any package, really, any software package.
Yeah, I was working with this company, right? I wasn't working for the company, but I was working with this company, and they had a Linda account, and they just shared the password with everybody. Like everybody.
That's awesome.
It's probably like 300 people using the same Linda account.
That's awesome.
But it's great, man. Because
it's cool that Linda doesn't pull the whole too many people are signed in kind of thing.
They got bought by LinkedIn.
Oh really? Okay, Linda, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Linda is now part of LinkedIn, which is kind of crazy.
That's cool. But yeah, I mean, pretty much just been slowly teaching myself, and I shouldn't say I don't like to say self-taught, because like a lot of people on the internet taught me how to do these things, and I learned plenty of things for myself, but just picking up from what other people have put out there in terms of techniques. And
well, I think I've done both, right? I've self-taught. Yeah. But I've also gone to school. I went to school for computer animation, right? Cool. Computer graphics. Yep. And like, honestly, I think I learned After Effects really well.
Yeah.
Through that method. Yeah. But it's basically just tutorials.
Totally.
Right? When you go to school for a computer animation or any kind of computer art, I feel like 90% of the material that you're being taught is just...
It's pretty much just like, step by step of the pipeline, and it's here's the tutorial, and then tutorial 1 leads to tutorial 2. And I'd say that's the one challenge of like trying to do it, more in outside of a school classroom environment, because you kind of have to like create your own schedule. And if you don't necessarily know what you're doing, you don't necessarily know that you're getting like tutorial 1 is going to lead to tutorial 2. You know what I mean?
Well, for me, the problem was when I first went to school, it was right out of high school.
Yeah.
So I was in the mentality of still being forced to learn.
Yeah.
And I did not take it seriously whatsoever.
Totally.
So then when I graduated, I had no idea how to make money.
Yeah.
Using those skills.
Yeah.
And I ended up working at like some stupid retail job.
Yeah.
Which was untenable. But at the same time, I discovered VJing, and that like totally became my life.
Cool.
So when I was like 19, it was just like working at this like computer retail store and VJing in every spare moment.
That's a good job to have when you're becoming a VJ, and maybe get some discounts at the computer store. No,
oh, absolutely. With video cards.
Yeah.
All kinds of.
That's cool.
All kinds of stuff.
But yeah, I would say that, it was definitely challenging, and often I would like, start, okay, I'm going to learn more Cinema 4D this week, and I'd do some tutorials, and then I'd maybe let a few weeks go by or a few months, get busy with life, and kind of have to brush the dust off when I came back to it, and so kind of took some time to really get into like the more traditional 3D motion graphics packages like Cinema 4D and After Effects.
Is that what you started with?
I started with the Mandelbulb stuff, which is just so much more abstract, and it's a lot more limited because it's really just for fractals.
Oh, that's interesting. So literally your entry into computer graphics was through...
Yeah, and like learning how to like keyframe and like, camera animation. And the Mandelbulb software has like really basic controls for that kind of thing. It's really bad. You can't like edit your keyframes really. Like it's...
Well, I feel like keyframes are this base concept where there's two schools of thought, right? And you'll notice that we were talking about lighting designers, right? The lighting design mentality works in queues and queue stacks, whereas computer animation, right, and like animation motion graphics, it's all about keyframes.
Totally.
I came from that world too, and it was very unintuitive trying to go back and learn a queue stack.
Totally. Lighting, it's more like, it's almost like music in a way, whereas keyframes, not so much,
Well, I think it's a more primitive way to think about a timeline.
Yeah.
Like if when I think about the two ways of looking at time in a digital system, a timeline makes so much more sense.
Sure. Yeah. So coming from that was definitely kind of like a weird place to start, I guess. But as I then saw more the limits of the Fractal software, and in some ways it's unlimited, the landscapes you can find, it really is infinite, the different combinations you can put together. But in terms of what you can do, let's say a client wants their logo and they want it to, turn into sand and disintegrate or something like that. If you're trying to do something specific, it's very limited.
You weren't doing commercial gigs back then.
Not at all. Not at all. But around the time that I kind of like really started VJing and making money doing that, not that I was making a lot of money, but a little bit, and seeing the potential, started to see kind of like more of the limitations of like, even if just for my own sake, I want to make, a visual that's kind of more flowy and liquid and abstract or something like that. Well, you need a certain kind of software to do that. And the fractal stuff wasn't cutting it for all of those purposes. So kind of started picking up more of the more what we think of as like motion graphic stuff, like After Effects and.
Well, fractals always look like fractals. Exactly. A way. It's like there's only so far you can go with.
Exactly, and they've become so popular too. It's super popular.
You also don't want to be that VJ where everybody's like, oh yeah, that is that fractal guy.
Yep, pretty much. And I, kind of put myself in that box in a way.
Well, it's okay. You took yourself out of that box.
Tried to elevate my content, past that level. So kind of always got love for the fractal softwares, but I've been really focused more on Cinema 4D primarily, and then more lately getting into real-time stuff like Notch, and slowly picking up some Houdini as well. So
yeah, I've never used Houdini. I've never fucked with that. But I did fuck with Notch for a little bit. We were talking earlier that our weapon of choice right now is Smode, which is another kind of real-time generative 3D environment.
Yeah, I've always wanted to play a little bit more with Smode. I looked at it one time. I saw it was a free download, and I kind of checked it out, and I liked it. I just didn't really put any time into it,
It's all Coke and Pepsi, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's just different ways to achieve the same things. And, it definitely, like, I have never seen content. Every program has a look.
100%.
Right? And it's like, you can kind of tell. It's like when I look at things that come out of Touch Designer, I'm like, oh yeah.
99% of the time, it immediately.
Yeah, it's like you can see it's got like a flavor or like a specific look to it, and Notch definitely has a specific look to it. But Absolutely. this is a recent thing for you, right? It's like when I was looking at all your content coming out of your VJing sets, and the festival scene, that was all Cinema 4D. Yeah.
Mostly Cinema 4D, plenty of Mandelball, After Effects, a variety of 3D softwares. I like to take like a lot of the kind of random 3D stuff like Grabado, or like Structure Synth is like an L system software where you kind of code your little L system and then it creates these cool kind of quasi fractals.
Yeah.
Take stuff like that and put it into Cinema. But yeah, most of my rendering the last few years has been Cinema. And last spring, I kind of really learned about the power of like how powerful Notch was, and picked up like the student license for myself. And then this summer, I've been working as a designer at Melt Creative, and they have a license there too. So been able to make use of that, and it's really fun software to work in. It's just the workflow is really straight to the point. You want particles, you just drop in a particle node and drop in a couple emitters and effectors, and you're off to the races pretty much,
Well, that's cool. It sounds like Melt is helping you like grow as an artist.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They've been great. It's been really a pleasure to work with Morgan and Evan at Melt, and our other animators there, Patrick and Karim.
I mean, I feel like that's really what it's all about in the end. It's like just finding environments for yourself that let you continue to grow in your technical art. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it's like finding jobs. So it's like I'll find a job and I'm like, oh yeah, this job is going to be great to develop like this particular skill set.
Totally.
And then it just makes you stretch.
Totally. Yeah. And that's kind of how we look at things too, with some of the work we've been doing at Meld. Is just every job is an opportunity to learn a new pipeline or new software, whether it's motion capture or something interactive with a Kinect, or,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always a new challenge in this industry, and every job is like different than the last one.
Do you do a lot of interactive installations? Like, do you use sensors like Kinect or?
Yeah, we have a Kinect. We tried out the RealSense. I don't know if you've played around with those at all, and we were kind of disappointed with the RealSense performance. Unfortunately, it wasn't very stable with Touch Designer or with Notch, but
What's the one that Intel's making?
That's the real sense. Is that the real sense? Yeah. They the form factor is great. They're tiny little things, and they're supposed to pack a punch, but we could never really get it like to be stable. Just a lot of software crashing, and so we kind of sent that back, and we've just been sticking with the Kinect.
What does it output? Does it have its own?
It's got like a depth cam. It doesn't do the like real time skeleton though the way Kinect does, but it's got like a depth cam and an infrared cam, I believe.
I was gonna say it's mostly like a depth camera.
Yeah. That's the main thing that it has. Yeah, and it had some potential. I don't know. Other people have had better luck with it, but for the most part, I've gotten pretty negative reviews from some of our peers. And
well, there's a whole host of ones to try. It's like there's a bunch of LiDAR sensors that we've been fucking around with, and those have a lot of promise too. For us, it's more about just detecting distance, and we can do that with it depends on the scenario. If you're looking at a room and you want to find people, like maybe instead of a depth cam it's like a FLIR cam and you're looking at heat, because then you're just you're picking, it's like blob detection, you're just looking at like heat signatures.
Totally.
If we're trying to gauge the distance between like a single person and an installation, like maybe you want a light to change hue as somebody approaches, something like that, then doing a LiDAR or even active infrared is fine. I'm really fascinated with the world of sensors. I want to continue to integrate that into like every installation I can.
Totally. Yeah, I mean that's the driving force behind anything interactive. Have to have a way for somebody to interact with the computer, the lighting, or whatever it is.
And do it in a way that doesn't. It's so easy to make interactive art that like is frenetic, or is too decoupled. From what I mean. It's like you look at it and you're like, am I controlling that? Am I not controlling that? Like, how is this even connected to what?
Absolutely.
And I think that is the art of interactivity, right? It's like making a piece that's not that you can understand how what you're doing is affecting the output.
Totally. Yeah, that's definitely been one of the kind of fun challenges with some of the Kinect stuff, especially I told you about this video glass, the transparent video glass that we had in our showroom. And so it's really low resolution. We're working at a resolution of like maybe 80 pixels by 96 pixels.
See, I love that resolution.
Right. but when you're coming from 4K video textures to trying to create engaging content, and I'm coming from the world of Octane and Cinema 4D renders to like this flat kind of like resolution from the 80s or before.
Well, look, it's like one is more abstract light art.
Exactly.
And the other one is contextual.
Exactly.
Like even the stuff that you're showing me here with Notch, it's abstract, but it's contextual. Yeah. It's like, it is very much like
there's a lot of detail.
Yeah. It's a high resolution image. Whereas a lot of working with low resolution lights is just playing with glow.
Yeah, totally. And so like trying to figure out how to make like a Connect, for example, engaging at that resolution.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun, but it was definitely challenging to say, okay, like, we want the user to immediately understand what's happening and that they're in control and that this is what they're in control of, and definitely, depending on what you're trying to do, it can be a little bit of a challenge,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think it is a really challenging, it's a really challenging spot to nail.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a puzzle, It
is. And it's hard to get it right. Yeah. It's easy to fall into one side or the other, or be too, two on one side or two on the other, and just have it miss the mark. So, yeah. That's cool though. I'm stoked to go and see your studios tomorrow. It'll be fun.
Definitely.
Man, this is going to be a crazy week with LDI. I'm glad that I'm glad we get to connect and do this podcast now, like going into LDI.
Totally.
Is this your first one?
Yes, it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been hearing about it for a few years, and kind of always looked at it as something I wish I could go do. So I'm stoked to be living in Vegas now, and got it down the street from my house, basically.
Yeah, I mean, your commute is definitely short, which is awesome.
It's like a couple miles to the convention center from here. So
I've been hitting up everybody that like I can think of. I'm like, are you gonna be there?
Yeah.
Like, let's get a drink.
Yeah.
Who's gonna be around? You know who I haven't heard back from yet is Velo. I don't know if he's going to be around, but I hope he is. I haven't talked to him in a long time, and it'd be good to see him and catch up.
Cool, yeah. I know that guy's all over the place.
Yeah, well, he's not actually these days. He's he's living in the Midwest, I think.
Really?
Yeah, or Chicago.
Interesting.
Right? I'm pretty sure that's where he is with his daughter. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be completely wrong about that. But he's not living... I think he's like half-time in LA. His daughter is where he's from.
Okay, gotcha.
And I believe that's Chicago, but I'm not positive.
Yeah. Oh, good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's crushing it. So what's... I want to know more about the festival circuit that you were doing previous to...
Sure.
To like living out here in Vegas and everything.
So in like 2015, I moved... from Wisconsin back out to Northern California to Lake Tahoe, and was living there up until about 6 months ago or so. So for the last 4 years, been doing a lot of festivals in Northern California, and some throughout the extended kind of United States and Canada. But
how did you get into that world in the first place?
Just going to a lot of festivals. Yeah. I mean, even before I was VJing, I was going to a lot of festivals and, just having fun and going to things like Burning Man and Lightning in a Bottle and, Symbiosis and being so stoked on all the cool art installations there.
I think Symbiosis was my first West Coast festival.
Okay.
Like way, way back.
Yeah, like the 2009 up in the mountains or before that?
Before that.
Okay,
it was
cool.
Maybe it was... No. It was before that. It was like 2007 or 6 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good event series.
It really is, man.
Hope that they're able to bounce back and do some more United States events. It seems like they're kind of taking a break from after the eclipse.
Right. Well, I mean, they're doing Eclipse down in Patagonia.
Right.
That's like the next... That's the next...
I know.
Festival.
I want to make it there. Are you thinking about going?
There's been talk.
Yeah.
Like I would like to go. Yeah. I think that I'm just gonna wait and see. For me, man, it's like it's really all about what friends are going, right?
Totally.
If there's like a good crew, then I'll totally go.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I will definitely not be working.
Yeah. I go. Did you do the one in Oregon?
No, I didn't, man. The last festival I did was Envision in Costa Rica.
Yep.
And that was Randall was there.
Yep. Totally.
Randall was there. I
have a bunch of friends who are on like the kind of site logistics team down there, like Ryan Candle and Colin Tucker does sound down there.
Okay.
Those guys, but
no, I don't. Have you been?
Yeah, I went down for fun in 2012, so that was like kind of their early days. Just an amazing vibe down there.
I'm trying to remember if it was 2012 or 2013 that I went, and I went to 2. And the last one I went to, we went with like a big group of people, and I was doing visuals and I was dating this girl. We had a house up in the mountains. I had rented a rental car to get, between the festival and this house. And I had forgotten something. Everybody went down to the festival. I forgot something up at the house. So I was like, oh shit, got to go back and get this thing. Was driving up, got the thing, was driving down from the mountain back to the festival, and one of the wheels became disconnected from the whatever system keeps both wheels turning simultaneously. Yeah. Right? So the whole car flips, and it's on this mountain trail. Thank God it flipped into the mountain, but I had to crawl out through the window, and I was barefoot. And there was glass everywhere, and I landed in the glass, and I stumbled back up to the house, and I was my girlfriend she had to come. eventually they were like, "Where's Rob?" And he came to try and find me, and they saw the car, and she's like, "Holy shit!" And then like went up to the house, and there's like a trail of blood from my cut foot, and it was.
They probably thought it was really bad.
Yeah, she was freaking out. But so obviously I did not VJ that night, but she brought the rear view mirror back down. They're like, "Where'd Rob go?" It's like drops the rear view mirror.
That's hilarious. Oh man, yeah. Was that the last year you were down there?
Yes.
Like 2013.
Yeah.
2013 you said?
Honestly, man, I don't like I like Costa Rica's cool. But my favorite parts of both those experiences were going to like Nicaragua one year and Panama the next year. Yeah. And just like, because it's so much less touristy.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of my experience down there too. Like it was super fun party, but it was just like being at like a NorCal West Coast festival just like on the beach in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
It was kind of the same culture.
Yeah, it is. It feels like symbiosis,
which is awesome in some ways, but it's sometimes you want to get something new too.
Yeah.
Love that culture, but
absolutely, it is definitely West Coast festival culture in Costa Rica, but that's cool. It's a very cool festival. So, what's the last festival you did?
Let's see. I guess for fun or for work.
Well, for work or whatever.
For work. For work was an event Tipper puts on, Tipper and Friends. That was in April at Suwannee. Oh, and then I guess I just did a couple events with him in September with Tipper at Resonance, which is in Pennsylvania this year, near Pittsburgh, and Imagine, which was in Atlanta at the Speedway, which was pretty interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they had our green room was like up in the grandstands of this racetrack and like looking down at the festival from a skybox. It was really strange.
Did you get to VJ from there?
I wish. That would have been fun.
Right?
No, normal front of house setup. But yeah, it was like a 10-minute, maybe 15-minute ride in the golf cart just to get like down to the festival. It was like over 1.5 miles from the green room. I was like,
holy shit,
this isn't very convenient.
Yeah, that would have been a shitty place to VJ from. Yeah. Actually. That's cool, man. Tipper's one of my favorite artists. I really love Tipper's music. It's so good. Did you like tour with him or?
He doesn't exactly like do like tours the same way a lot of artists do. He kind of does like a few one-offs every year and then throws a few of his own events every year. And he tries to do something kind of different with each event. So he's got kind of a roster of VJs that he will kind of choose from for each event, depending on what he thinks the vibe of his music is going to be, depending on the event, depending on, whatever he's feeling and whatever his team thinks is a good fit. So, I've been really lucky to be able to work with him a handful of times over the years.
That's awesome. That's cool.
We'll be joining him coming up this winter in Arizona at the Gem and Jam Festival, which is in Tucson, around the time of the gem show that they do down there, where they have it's like one of the biggest gem shows in the world.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you probably know about it.
Yeah.
So I'm stoked to go check that out because I've never been to the gem show and I always wanted to go. See some of those crystals.
When I was when I was touring, our bus broke down outside of Tucson.
Really?
Yeah.
Did it happen to be during the gem show?
It was like right before the gem show, but they had everything laid out on tables.
Yep.
And I distinctly remember, I used to tour with a little folding bike in the bottom of the bus. And I just remember getting that bike out, unfolding it, and biking around Tucson.
Just cruising around all the crystals.
Yeah, man, it was so trippy. It was it was like the middle of nowhere, and it was just such a weird vibe. I was like, wow, these crystals are amazing.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm stoked to check it out. It'll be fun to get out there for a couple days.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Definitely, yeah. Love Tipper's music, and it's always a good time to do a set with him because the music's gonna be slamming. So
yeah, man, absolutely.
Everybody's dancing their ass off.
I want to go.
Yeah, you should come, man. You should definitely come.
Yeah, especially if it's Tipper. Tipper's such good music.
Yeah, it's a good time.
So was he the only artist that you work closely with?
Yeah, I would say he's the only person I've kind of done more than just random one-off. He's the only artist who's hired me directly. Usually before that I would be getting hired by a festival the event promoter. You know what I mean? It was more getting hired by the events, and Tipper's been kind of really supportive of what I'm doing, and reaching out directly to get me on his team. So super big shout out to Dave.
Yeah, Dave. Shout out to Dave. What other VJs are on his roster?
Jonathan Singer and Android Jones are kind of like the two who kind of started the whole thing with Dave. There was an event they did in the Fillmore back in San Francisco in 2011 or 2012, and Kerry Thompson had made a stage for him, and Android had learned about some new software where you could paint in real time.
I remember that. Yeah, the Android Jones experience.
Yeah, exactly. And then they had Jonathan Singer doing visuals on the sides too. While Android, that was kind of set the trend. And at the time, this was before I even really understood what VJing was. It was before I was doing the whole fractal thing, and I'd seen some videos of that, and then ended up going to a show and seeing it. I saw it at Burning Man actually in 2012 or 2013 at the Fractal Planet camp, and they had Android was doing visuals there for Tipper, and it was just blew my mind, and was I got to learn more about this. And so that kind of planted the seed.
I don't know if it was 2012 or maybe it was after 2012, but I distinctly remember seeing Phaedroid experience, which was Android Jones painting on his girlfriend at the time, Phaedra, with the Wacom tablet and what the fuck was Particle
Illusion.
Particle Illusion, yes, right. That was the software that he was using.
Exactly. I remember the day I found out about Particle Illusion from an Android Jones interview, and went and downloaded it and was oh my god, this is how he's doing it.
Well, it's just not a traditional VJ app.
No.
You're just whoa.
No, it was a motion graphics app that happened to have a real-time viewer.
Yeah.
And he figured out how to put it with a mirror through the projector, and So those guys kind of set the trend with the whole kind of psychedelic visuals for Tipper kind of thing. And then more recently he's put...
do you know Fong?
I do know Fong, yeah.
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 And
Anson Fong.
Yeah. Have you used his...
Fong's awesome. Love that guy.
He's one of the first people in the Bay Area that I met. I met him at Flow Toys when I moved to the Bay. I broke my ankle when I was on a tour, and I got basically kicked off the tour, and I got invited to be a resident artist at Flow Toys.
Okay,
and
cool.
Fong was living at Flow Toys at that point, and so I moved in with them, and I was his roommate briefly.
Nice.
And then he's just a very
Fong is the man. He's the smartest dude ever.
He's like an elf character.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So legit. I met him actually at Android's studio at his farm in Colorado. Fong was out there living with him for some time while they're developing their new VR software. I was
just gonna ask you if you had played with that.
Yeah. Yep. I've been kind of playing with it since some of the earliest versions in 2016. And it's super fun. He basically took Particle Illusion and turned it into a 3D VR version. Yeah. And it's funny because the day that I met Android, we were talking about Particle Illusion, and he's like, dude, I really want to make this the 3D version. And he did it, man. He fucking did it. It's still, getting better every day from what I hear. So it's been a few months since I've taken it for a spin, but it's pretty sick, man.
I saw him play live in San Francisco just recently.
Oh, cool.
It was the first time I'd seen that software.
Yeah. Where was that?
Oh man, it's I can't remember the name of the venue, but it was
for what music?
Tipper was playing.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah.
So
sick.
he was VJing live for Tipper.
Sick.
But it was really interesting seeing somebody VJ from a VR headset.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. We've done a few gigs where he'll hire me to come out and kind of be his his eyes on the screen.
Yeah.
So he can just dive into the VR.
Right.
And run the VR, and I can just worry about making sure that the signal's flowing and add a little bit of Resolume effects to kind of juice it a little bit.
Yeah.
Those are always fun gigs.
That's interesting. So you co-VJ.
Kind of, yeah. I like to build myself more as a video tech and not take anything away from what he's doing, but we kind of run backup basically.
Yeah.
No, he's creating and I broadcast basically.
Yeah. Do you ever involve the lighting design into your sets? Do you coordinate?
Definitely. If there is a lighting rig and a lighting designer there, we'll usually talk about some of the color schemes that am going to be working with for the set, or if I have some key moments where I want them to go dark or, go all red or whatever it is. Definitely like to have communication about that. Tippers Camp usually likes to go without lighting for some of their sets. To kind of like change it up from all the other acts that usually have just, crazy lighting, and they like to focus on video, which is kind of interesting. I kind of like, sometimes it's great because, all eyes are on my content, but also like, I love like a good show with like really nice moving heads and great integrated lighting with good timing and everything. So, I'd say my favorite sets I've ever VJ'd have definitely had lighting involved. And,
well, it's part of a holistic, like a whole, it's part of a set.
Absolutely.
If you think about the stage as like a piece of architecture, then, lighting is one aspect of that. Video is another aspect of that.
Lasers, fog, haze,
pyro,
maybe.
Sometimes, yeah. And I feel like the most successful stage designs do a really good job of balancing all those things.
Absolutely. It's all about integrating everything in a way that feels cohesive and like everybody's on the same page.
Yeah.
And so, those are definitely the most fun. You have a lighting, LD and a laser operator and a VJ who are all in tune and in sync, and operators, and just get to jam.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much about jamming, but you have to have like good communication with the other operators.
Right? Totally. Yeah.
I feel like designing a tour or designing a show in advance has a lot of benefits, but it also has drawbacks. Like a live set is much more of a conversation between visual artists, right? Where it's like if you're jamming and it's like an electronic music event, right?
Yeah.
Then it's much more of a conversation between visual artists.
Yeah.
And then if you're designing a show, it's almost like a play.
Absolutely.
Right? It's like a pre-scripted performance that you've thought out.
You can get such a tighter integration with like a time-coded show
but it's not as spontaneous at all.
It doesn't have that same feeling, of the kind of in the moment freedom and creativity.
Yeah.
I definitely I can appreciate both, I really love seeing like a time-coded show. And I think like the best of those leave some room for like busking where, the scenes are triggering, but there's still things that the operator can do to make it fun and interactive.
Absolutely.
So I think there is kind of like a best of both worlds. Most of all the events that I've done have always been just like kind of free to interpret the music. Occasionally you'll get an artist who has specific content they want played or whatever, but it leaves a lot more room for error, which is kind of fun to keep you on your toes. But
I think a good conversation has error. It's not necessarily supposed to be perfect.
Yeah.
But a lot of like surprises can come of that, and then you can get some really like intrigue.
Absolutely. And I would say, I've made a lot of discoveries even just within my own content where, I might at some of the festivals that I've done where I'm VJing for like 6 or 8 hours from like sundown to sun up, and it's 3 a.m. and the dance floor is getting empty and I'm just like, trying to keep myself engaged, and I'm just like putting new combinations of content or effects together and have made some of my favorite discoveries. Then I'm like, why didn't I think of this sooner?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I'm playing this one at the next one, but when there's actually people on the dance floor that will see it, save that one to the effects stack and
3 o'clock when you're peaking.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, I am in my creative flow right now.
Exactly. So, there's something to be said for both. I definitely love a show that allows for, that freedom to just play. And
I was thinking about that the other day, and so I was listening to this podcast about Hierarchy of needs.
Okay. Yep.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Maslow. I'm not sure.
Yeah. But they say that the pinnacle of actualization is finding like a state of flow. Right. Yeah. Basically, that's what they call it, and it's I have experienced that state while VJing, and I can't. There's only like a few points in time when I'm like, oh yes, I am. You know, you're not thinking about the technicalities of what you're doing. You're just literally letting art come through you.
Totally.
Right. And it's like VJing. It's just like 3 a.m, right? It's like early in the morning when you've been going for hours and you're in that groove and you're feeling that music, you're feeling the music and expressing that through like the system that you barely have to think about because you've been using it for years of your life.
Yep.
You know,
exactly.
I miss that.
Totally.
I really do.
Totally. Yeah. As VJing has kind of taken a backseat to the content and design work that I've been doing this year, definitely that's one of the things that I miss the most and enjoy the most when I do get to do a show. You know, I've done a couple shows this year and just getting in that zone with a MIDI controller and just feeling the music and rocking out, you know.
And it's like an instrument.
Exactly. Yeah. Get to let the music inform your next move and try to anticipate what they're gonna do.
Yep.
That's one of the the most fun things about working with an artist like Tipper, who's you never, every set's gonna be different. He's never played the same set twice, you know. Really?
So he's very much
improvisational, you know.
That's awesome.
Some turntablism, and he'll tease a track that you know, and you think you know what's going to happen, and then he plays like a remix of it or whatever, you know, that you've never heard before. Like, you know, keep you on your toes even as the VJ, you know. And so it's kind of like one of the most fun challenges about working with him is that, like you asked earlier, like, have I toured with him? And he just doesn't do the tour thing because he doesn't have like a set that he wants to stick to. He wants every experience to be different. And, you know, no matter how much preparation I do, going into that set, I have very little information about what's really going to happen. You know,
that's cool though.
His manager might give me like one suggestion of like how to start or something like that, or like maybe like a color or a theme.
So you don't go over content or anything. You don't like.
Sometimes we definitely will go over it and look at it, and they might say like, "Here, start with that." But like that's about it. We don't. Then it's like it's up to you from there. All looks good, you know.
Yeah.
And I, you know, definitely like I've made some great choices sometimes about what content to play, and other times I'm like, oh damn it, I should have waited to put that piece with this track, or you know, but. You know,
VJing is an incredibly forgiving art form, though. It is,
to say the least. Yeah,
it's like no matter what,
you have to screw up pretty hard for people to even notice.
Exactly,
and you have to screw up really bad for anybody to be even like the least bit upset about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, whereas like the DJ or whoever's making music, like even a small screw up technically, or the sound guy, can be like pretty damaging to like some people's experiences, you know?
Absolutely. I think that it's funny, man, because when I was in Germany, people actually go out to events for visual performances, right? There's this, there's a collective called White Void, Christopher Bowder.
Okay.
And he is a light artist.
Yeah.
That does installations. Yeah. And when I was out there the last time, it was actually during the Touch Designer Summit.
Okay.
It was like a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah.
And they had a performance, and they packed this. It was like a old abandoned train station.
Sure.
Right, that their installation was in.
Yeah.
And it was like they had been running shows for a week plus and just packing this thing every night. And I'm like, wow,
that's so rad.
This is a visual artist who is headlining.
Yeah, it's their show.
Yeah, absolutely. So it does exist.
Absolutely.
You know? But
I think it's coming. Raves, you know, I feel like it's slowly coming to North America now with these kind of like more immersive art spaces that are becoming more popular.
Yes.
I feel like that's more realistic to like have that concept and pull it off, you know.
As installation artists.
Yeah, but Europe is definitely like pretty far ahead of us in that culture, so to speak.
Well, Europe just has so much more of a culture of art, right? It's like Europe is very focused on art.
True that.
And there's like a history of art taking a prominent role in that culture. Yeah. Right. So it's like you see it everywhere too. It's like the architecture that's all over the place. It's the food. It's people's interactions with each other. It is art is much more valued.
100%. Yeah. No, the culture is so much deeper there too.
Yeah, and I mean, art is valued in the United States. It's not like in Europe. The government puts money.
It's not as appreciated by as much of the society, as much of the population.
Yeah, because it's not easily monetizable.
Yeah.
I mean, like you've got the fine art scene in New York, right? But I would argue that like the fine art scene is really not where the cutting edge of art is happening.
No, certainly not.
Yeah, right. And now it's interesting to see Burning Man, the art at Burning Man slowly start to seep into the fine art scene, the same way that like Banksy did, right? Like Banksy was this like weird thing that just all of a sudden now like, his work is like collectible.
Totally. Yeah. And collect the side of a building that they tore out with a backhoe.
Well, they literally do that.
I know. Yeah. It's insane.
But now it's like Burning Man art pieces are being bought and installed in Vegas and like all over the place. You've got like Burning Man art that's like
totally
becoming monetized.
Totally.
And yeah, it's a process. So I feel like there's like there's a fundamental value put on art in Europe that is not as present in the United States. And that, to me, that's almost most visible in like the superfluous things like, bridges and like public works projects. In the United States, we have very like square industrial, like
everything is very utilitarian.
It is.
It's straight to the point and practical. And it's not a lot of embellishment or,
Yeah, right. Exactly. And over in Europe it's just different. Have you been over to Western Europe?
I've been to Portugal, and that's it.
Portugal is beautiful. Oh, did you go for Boom?
I've been to Boom twice. Yeah.
Nice.
But I have spent some time outside of the festival touring to the south, to the southern coast, and kind of through central Portugal.
That's cool.
Beautiful country.
My friend
really
Rebecca,
amazing.
Who owns Leads Control, she is looking at buying land in Portugal. She's been spending a lot of time there.
Wise choice, I would say. I think it's one of the like places that's still pretty reasonably priced, and like it's beautiful, and it doesn't feel like overly developed the way I feel like some other like the kind of more populated places like Italy and Germany.
Yeah. Yeah, Germany.
But I can't say from my own personal experience. But when I was in Portugal, it just felt very laid back, and
that's what I hear.
Yeah.
I've never been.
It's very relaxed.
But I'm in Spain all the time. Next time I go to Spain, going to Portugal.
Definitely, yeah. Go if you can get to the beaches on the south coast. It was like being in a Hollywood movie about pirates of the Mediterranean or something. It was pretty amazing cliffs and beaches down there.
Yeah,
these like super picturesque caves and yeah.
I was in Marseille for a little while.
Oh, very nice. And
Marseille is beautiful. It's like got the North African vibe, right? Yeah. And it's France, but it's also very much like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's totally different.
Yeah, it's a Mediterranean kind of more bohemian feeling. Yeah, totally.
And talk about cliffs, man. Like I'm really into climbing.
Cool.
And they've got like these enormous cliffs that are right up next to the water.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would love Portugal, definitely.
Yeah, I thought I was going to move there for a minute to Marseille.
Oh, cool.
And I was like, oh, maybe Barcelona's cool. And I was like, oh my God.
Speaking of, how was your trip to South Africa?
Oh, it was so good, man.
Yeah, I was enjoying keeping up with some of your stuff on social media.
Yeah, well, Cape Town is literally a city with a mountain in the middle of it.
It's amazing, right?
It is. And everybody's just like biking, surfing, hiking, climbing.
Yeah.
And the people that I stayed with, they were super, super active. Like they're the kind of people who, there's one guy in particular, he was just moving all the time. Right. Yeah. So it's like, I was like, all right, if I do half of the activity that this guy does, I will be super proud of myself.
Oh yeah.
And I got in really good shape. It was like a month of just like being active.
Were you staying in Cape Town most of that time?
Yeah, I was staying with Africa Burners. So cool. I planned that whole trip around people who were connected to friends.
Yeah.
So I like put it out to the community. I was like, who knows people in South Africa? And most of the connections that I made were Africa Burners, part of the DPW crew. Yep. And so I just hopped between different people's houses. I couch surfed with them the whole time. And we ended up going out to the Tankwa Desert, which is this, it's almost like Southern California. It kind of feels like the Mojave, but way more remote. Yeah. And that's where they have the Africa Burn event.
So cool. You weren't there during Africa Burn, though.
No.
I've heard really good things about Africa Burn.
So have I, man. But
having spent some time in South Africa, I really would love to get out there, and the culture there is just amazing.
You have been?
Yeah.
That's right. We talked
about it briefly. Yeah, it was like it was about 10 years ago.
You went to school there or something, right?
I did like an internship, yeah. Right. Actually, I went there for like a month-long tour with a college class in 2009. And then I went back for 6 months after I finished school and did like a work internship there as part of like a bigger program that was kind of like around the World Cup being in South Africa. So yeah, you get to spend a lot of time there and tour most of the kind of more populated parts of the country.
Did you go to Johannesburg?
Yeah, I lived in Johannesburg for 2 months or 2.5 months during the World Cup.
Was that the whole? Did you?
I lived in Cape Town for like 2 months, and then Johannesburg for I think it was around 3 months in Cape Town, and then 2.5 months in Johannesburg, and then like some time traveling.
What did you think of those two cities? Or like what were
it's kind of like comparing, like Johannesburg is like LA and Cape Town is like San Francisco. See, is like
that is exactly what so many people told me. They're like, Johannesburg is very much like the LA,
except without the nice beach, because it's inland and landlocked, and so it's like just this hot, massive metropolis. But it's definitely a pretty crazy dichotomy there, just because you go to downtown Johannesburg and it's like huge skyscrapers and flashy cars and Maseratis and shopping malls and Gucci stores or whatever, and then you drive just a few miles out and you're in like a million population, 1 million people in a like tin shacks.
This is in Cape
and there's
Town.
A middle class as well, but and Cape Town too. I mean, they have those townships that are just, it's so like the poverty is just so much greater than anything that we have here in the United States.
Well, it's crazy because it's such a dramatic shift, and it's very much broken up by like geographical location. Like the townships are in rings around the city center.
Totally. So when I was there, we did some volunteering in the Soweto Township, in the Kinshasa Township outside of Johannesburg, and then I forget the name of the township in Cape Town, but we were going and volunteering at some of the schools there, like on the weekends, and it was definitely pretty moving to see how the lifestyle's there, and just to see like how extreme the spectrum was there.
Yeah. It was kind of depressing actually. Is I found that like, so the segregation based on like economics, which in turn was like manifest in race, was more extreme than anything I've experienced anywhere else.
Oh yeah.
Outside of like Haiti. Haiti was kind of like that. However,
but there's so many more different like race in South Africa. It's just like there's all these different castes.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's almost like it wasn't that much of a dramatic difference from San Francisco. It was really disturbing. It was just like, man, this is
I could definitely see that.
This is more extreme, but in the same
it's just more
vein.
Obvious.
Yeah. As San Francisco. It's like that's fucked up.
Yeah. It's definitely pretty crazy just because I mean, the desegregation of South Africa is so much more recent,
It is.
It happened in the mid-90s, and many people lived through that, you know.
But it feels like it was like racial segregation that was then just flipped into economic segregation, which is still based on race.
Totally.
And it was just like, wow, man. And it's kind of the same way in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, fuck. But it was cool to see that and to put that into perspective, and then to travel around and to get people's perspectives on, you know, people who live in South Africa and who live in Cape Town, and like talk to them, you know, and then go out into the townships. I did a bunch of work on a school in the townships, just doing like electrical work because like,
totally,
people always hanging out with me. Yeah. And it was a really interesting experience. It was cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love Cape Town so much. Wouldn't really say the same thing about Johannesburg as much.
Definitely I also heard that.
Definitely good times there, but yeah, it's like I could see myself living in Cape Town. Like, you know, the culture there is just awesome.
When I got back, and while I was there, I was thinking the same thing. It was just like, how do I make this place more a part of my life?
Yeah.
And it's just so isolated.
Yeah, I know. It's far away. It's like, it's not cheap to get over there.
No.
And
I am going to go for Africa Burn though.
Cool. Maybe I can meet you there sometime.
Do you get to travel? Do you think you're going to get to travel with Melt?
I'm definitely traveling less now, I would say. But hopefully it will allow me to travel more long-term in the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And more like for my own purposes. I'm definitely planning to be in Chile at the eclipse just for fun.
Nice.
So, you know, Mel's been super cool about
Is
letting
it
me
Chile or is it Argentina?
I guess I'm not sure.
Oh, it's Patagonia is both.
Yeah, I feel like it's like right on the border.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure, honestly.
It's almost like Patagonia should be its own thing.
Totally. Yeah.
It should be like Chile, Argentina, and then like the national park, which is separate, which is Patagonia.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it probably like almost feels like that when you're there. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure.
But definitely looking forward to that.
But
yeah, definitely like having been to South Africa twice within a year of each other, 2009 and 2010. And the second time was for 6 months. You know, I thought, oh, this is going to be a huge part of my life going forward. And here we are almost 10 years later, and I haven't been back, and I'm a little bit upset about that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I enjoy traveling for work. I also enjoy traveling for like personal reasons, and I like mixing those two things together.
Yeah.
So totally. It's like finding a gig that lets you travel, and then segueing that into personal travel.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's kind of the dream, right?
I feel like, you know, it's another trick, you know, it's like learn that trick or figure out a way to integrate that into your life or integrate that into your job. And totally. It's a good hack. It is a good hack.
Get somebody else to pay for the plane tickets and hotel rooms, at least some of them.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
You get to have some fun doing it.
Yeah. I've been looking for projects in Europe and Asia.
Totally.
Because those are two places I want to spend time.
Well, they're definitely a lot more ahead of the game on the light installations and light art culture over
there. Yeah. And then just,
maybe it's a little more of a saturated market though, you know?
Yeah, but there's still not that many people doing it.
Yeah.
And I make it a point to know all of them.
Totally.
Or as many as I can.
It's a pretty small community when it comes down to it, which is awesome, you know, and everybody for the most part is super, you know, cool about sharing techniques and.
Well, that's the thing. Everybody who's doing this more or less is kind of like us. I mean, there's a few big corporate players.
Yeah.
But Gensler actually just launched their, can't remember what they call it, but it's basically their like feature design branch, you know, competing with like Moment Factory.
Yeah.
It's it's cool. A lot of people from Obscura got sucked into the Gensler.
Where are they based?
They're all over. There's a branch in LA, a branch in San Francisco.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that brand. That's cool.
Well, they're an architectural firm.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That's the thing, man. You know, the same way that like lighting and video the LD and the video world on stage kind of merged. They smashed into each other.
Yeah.
Architectural lighting, show production, and marketing are smashing together.
Totally.
Into this new thing.
Totally. Yeah. It's pretty cool kind of intersection.
It is. Well, it's spawning a whole new industry. It's like, what do you call it? It's weird.
Yeah.
I've talked to other people on this podcast about that.
Immersive media or kind of...
There's a million names for
experiential architecture, stuff like that.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's a thing that it's like if you're building a huge new construction, like a new hotel or a huge new office or whatever, you have to accent it somehow.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the most important things.
Well, it's expected.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it's just a big gray box.
Absolutely. Yeah, the lighting lends so much to the way we feel about places when we...
Lighting, media, interactivity, some kind of feature.
Sound, maybe.
Yeah, well, so anything that brands it, right? It's like, okay, so it's like this building is special because of why. And that's been the architecture, which is still like, that's like if that's the cake, then like what we're doing is like the frosting and the sprinkles on top, right?
Those tasty light sprinkles.
Yeah, man.
Sprinkles.
LED sprinkle mapping.
Yeah.
It's the next craze.
Volumetric frosting.
That's right. That's right, man. Do you guys stray into that world at all, or are you mostly focused on the stage?
As far as architectural stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. At Melt, we're definitely working with some firms to, like I was talking about that glass, that video glass, that's like really more for architectural purposes, not for stage purposes.
Oh, yeah.
And so we're working on some pitches to potentially be doing like a multi-story video screen that would be more or less a permanent installation at an airport.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Airport projects, man. Airports are like a really tasty venue for this kind of work.
Definitely, yeah.
There's a lot of cool multimedia art that gets expressed.
Yeah, it's a cool, a cool place where there's so much different technology and people, so many people, and just it'd be a fun one.
Well, that's like the whole branding and architecture thing. Airports are almost like that's why people remember airports.
Yeah,
totally. It's like there's so many, like that thing in Chicago. There's the pillars in LA. There's like San Francisco's constantly rotating.
The Illuminati murals in Denver.
Oh yeah, what is the deal with the Denver and conspiracy theories, man?
I don't know, but yeah, I guess they've really taken it to heart now. They're like their own marketing department is like advertising, like making jokes out of it.
Well, good for them. Good for them. I'm sure that's just fuel for the conspiracy theorists, right? They're like, aha.
Yeah, we did another kind of cool, kind of immersive thing recently. Toys R Us recently relaunched some stores after their bankruptcy.
Oh my God, giraffes.
Yeah, they're back. And they, with some of their first stores, they had kind of an interactive thing where the kids show up and before they get into the store, they go into this train car that's like kind of a steampunk kind of Harry Potter magic train kind of feel.
Yeah.
And we created like a video that plays in the windows, so it feels like you're in this like train they walk in and they see a train station. And then the train starts rolling out of the station and eventually hits light speed.
Oh, wow.
And goes into like a warp tunnel. And then now they're in Toytopia. And they're in this like outer space toy world. And then the door is open and now they're in Toys R Us.
Right,
they get to go play with all their cool toys.
Man, that's funny.
So, that was kind of a cool one where they sent us the architectural plans for this like train car. And, it was a little more than just like a cheap mock-up or like a festival installation that gets set up for a few days out of 2x4s. And, it's like more of
a permanent thing.
Yeah.
That's what I like about architainment or like doing this kind of work for architecture is that it lets you like really design and build something well, that's well thought out. Usually there's more time involved, there's more budget, and it's like, you can really take your time and design something that's like built to last.
Totally.
Whereas like the stage, it's just literally smoke and mirrors.
100%. Yeah. It's over as soon as you can catch your breath,
Yeah, exactly. And there's never enough time.
Yeah.
That's the worst. How you feeling? Feeling good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Good. Yeah. How are you feeling?
Good. I gotta use the bathroom. Cool. I'm gonna pause this for a second. Cool. Become an expert at opening beer with any kind of sharp-edged object.
That's right.
I feel like it's a life skill.
Learned at an early age for some of us.
Yeah, I actually never drank anything until I was 23 or 24.
Really? That's funny.
Yeah, man. I was always much more about weed and psychedelics.
Yeah.
And then, at a certain point, it was for my birthday, actually. Some girl gave me a bottle of vodka for my birthday. I was like, this isn't that bad.
That's funny. That's super funny. Growing up in Wisconsin, like the alcohol drinking culture there is just so ingrained in like everybody's activities that like by the time I was even out of high school, I was kind of already like, I've drank enough alcohol. And
that's funny now because you don't drink really at all. You're not.
I do sometimes, but not that much.
Yeah.
Like, I had a few sips of Jane's margarita at dinner, but I didn't get my own, but yeah, I definitely don't drink like I did when I was in high school or in college,
That's funny.
And for like a good 5 years, I didn't drink at all. But a few years ago, I kind of started occasionally drinking and I think have a glass of whiskey or something.
It was like I associated alcohol with jocks. Because it's like funny. In my school, it was, like
definitely alcohol and sports, they sure go hand in hand.
Right, exactly. It was like you had the jocks who drank beer, and then like all of my friends were like the weird,
the skaters and the punks,
psychedelic,
smoke
like
weed,
the
and do shrooms. And,
exactly.
I was a skater in high school, so we were definitely more like smoking weed and that kind of thing, and some shrooms or whatever. But
it's funny. It's like we all grew up in different spots, but it was more or less the same.
Yeah, totally.
It's like you've got rural America, you've got city America.
Pretty much, yeah. I grew up like in rural, but like close to the city, so kind of had the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And maybe the worst of both too. I don't know.
Well, then you've got like really rural,
super America. Actual rural, like right? Got North Dakota, where you're like 400 miles from a shopping mall.
Suburbs. And then maybe you've got, they say that there's 5 countries. Like I read this article and it was like, the United States can be broken up into 5 distinct countries.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You've got like the Northeast.
New England.
Yep.
And the South.
Yep.
And like the Southwest.
Yep.
The desert.
You've got the Northwest.
Yeah, the Pacific Northwest.
And then there's like the plains. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
And they're very distinct cultures.
They really are, yeah. And there's a lot of little microcultures within that, but it's definitely, they've all got their own thing, kind of.
Yeah, well, if you think about like the United States, almost like, Europe is kind of a similar vibe, but, and Europeans are probably like, fuck you.
Exactly. Stupid Dominican.
But to me, as just like, go like visiting, passing through, I'm like, oh yeah, it's like, but the languages are a real defining factor. It's like, for sure. That is, and there's much more of like it's more divided, and it's more like there's more of a line between cultures.
Yeah.
However, at this point, especially with the EU, it's just like, okay, you guys are like a big.
It's blending. It's becoming more and more blended. Thing. Yeah. 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 I mean, here we don't really have so much of the language thing, but there's definitely like dialects.
Oh my God, yeah.
And accents. I'm sure growing up in Boston, and I mean, for me growing up in Wisconsin too, there's such a thick Midwest accent on some people there. And then
the values thing.
Yeah.
Like each area has such distinct values. Like the South, totally. Right? You've got like the Bible Belt, and then you've got like the Northeast, and it's kind of like you've got this like Italian.
And there's like California, which is just like super progressive and like.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like the Northwest. It's funny, man. It's like I was listening to this podcast, Bundyville.
Okay.
It's a really, really fascinating podcast, and it like goes into the whole like crazy alt-right thing that's happening up in the Northwest, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, man. And it's like all these neo-Nazis are like up in the Northwest. Well, it's crazy because you got Portland, Seattle.
Right.
And then you've got like this crazy separatist
everything movement. In between is like way more conservative and
man,
in an extreme way.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Like part of me is like, wow, I bet it would be fascinating to go up there and like poke around, and then like the rational part of me is like, no,
don't you idiot, do that.
Exactly. Do not do that.
Don't go tempt fate with the neo-Nazis.
Yeah. But it's like, I don't know. I like extreme travel. I really do. Yeah. I like extreme travel. I like to like visit extreme cultures and try and like, understand extreme people. I like that.
Totally.
But, there are limits.
I
understand this.
So sometimes it might get a little too extreme.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any travel in your immediate future, or are you pretty much just playing it by ear?
Planning to go visit family in Wisconsin in December. Haven't been back there in a few years, so probably get back there for Christmas, which will be nice. And visit my girlfriend's family in Iowa as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. Jane's
right nearby, Iowa, so
very close.
That makes it an easy trip. Beyond that, I mentioned going to Arizona with Tipper. I might be doing another event with him in the Southeast in the spring. Don't have too much on the horizon beyond that, but you never know when something's going to pop up.
Oh, well, I'll meet you.
I'm going to Denver in 2 weeks for a show I'm doing there with another DJ named Detox Unit.
Oh, interesting.
Makes pretty cool bass music.
That's cool.
So that'll be at Cervantes. So be out there for like a day. See some friends. And
man, you should use your work at Melt to like springboard into more into like formal like relationships with these artists.
Totally.
Like, look, bro, I don't have time to like fuck around with these.
That's pretty much what it's really helped me do, where the people who are still hiring me like really value my time enough to make it worth it.
Yeah.
For me to, take some time off of work, or even like, I did a thing with Tipper and he was able to put some money towards me spending some company time to develop some stuff for his show with the notch license that we have at work.
Yep.
And so, it's definitely really shifted my focus to working with the people who can really support me and want me for, my artwork, and not just because I'm a VJ or just because of a brand name or, whatever.
Yeah.
Or just because I'm available, or just because I only cost $300 a night, or, whatever reason they might want to hire me. I can say no to most of those things, luckily now.
Yeah, man.
And really pick and choose.
That's a distinctive phase in successful careers in this industry. I've found that it's like, it's like everybody's just like kind of, they're hustling, they're doing their thing, especially people who start as VJs.
Yeah.
Like I did, it's, at first you're just like struggling, hustling, trying to make it work.
You're just trying to get like any gigs. You're just stoked to be able to plug into a screen.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then it becomes like, okay, I want to get paid, but like I'm still down to do it for cheap, and like I'm just stoked to be getting hired.
Well, you find your trick, your hustle, your hack.
Early you want to say yes, and then now I want to say no.
Well, once you're making a living,
trying to,
and once at first you have more time than you have money, and you're like, oh great, I'll trade all this time for any amount of dollar points that I can get.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, well now I have very few time points.
Yeah.
And I have enough dollar points. And
if you want my time points, you got to give me a whole bunch of dollar points.
You have to be very selective.
Yeah.
And I actually, that's the sweet spot in a career, because then you can just be picky, and you can almost pick your own clients.
Definitely.
Like, all right, well, Tipper's cool. Or work for him.
Definitely.
Starting to say no to clients puts you in a really good position.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely something like I like to say no. I'm not super fast to rush into gigs, even when I wasn't making that much money, but being able to feel like I can say no is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, it makes it so much more relaxed, right?
Yeah.
You're not like stressing, like, oh no, like what if I don't
Yeah, what if I don't lowball this enough and I don't get the gig, because I need to make rent.
Yeah, and then you've got the confidence to be like, I know what I'm worth.
Totally.
Or this is what this would be worth to me. It's like, I want to make this much money.
Yeah, if I'm gonna leave town for the weekend on my days off from my other job, it's got to be worth this much. And it's definitely, I feel really lucky to be able to do that, even if it means I'm traveling a little bit less or, doing less VJ shows. It's, I'm actually more excited to be working on content these days and really trying to learn some of the like higher end stuff, like, like Houdini or getting into some Unreal Engine or, that kind of thing where it's, that's what I want to do with my free time these days more than I want to be like going to the next festival or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I hear that, man. I'm definitely kind of over festivals unless I really want to go. There's only 1 or 2 festivals that I'm even interested in going to these days. And like, they're very small and they're full of the people that I enjoy spending time with. And
totally.
I have another question for you. I was wondering if you had ever heard of a podcast called The Collective Podcast.
I don't think so.
There's a guy named Ash Thorpe who...
I do know Ash Thorpe.
Yeah, man.
Very well. Well, not personally, but I follow his stuff pretty closely.
Well, you should subscribe to his podcast.
I know I've seen a few podcasts with him, but maybe this was before it was called The Collective, because I used to watch a thing that he would do like on a pretty regular basis, but that was through like Learn Squared or like a kind of more of a like education, like digital software education thing.
No. He's been doing this for years.
Gotcha.
But he's a really fascinating person to listen to. He's also very well spoken and he's really fluid.
Yeah.
I get a lot of value in it. Out of it.
Yeah.
I'm not even really into motion graphics, but
totally.
Just listening to people describe the artistic process.
Totally. Well, he's such a talented guy. I'm sure his whole vibe is just like engaging,
Well, it's engaging. It's also really calm and it's really like insightful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should listen to it, man.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for the tip. I'll definitely put that on the list.
I reached out to him when I first started doing this, and he was just like, go for it.
Sick.
I'm like, any advice? Is like, yeah, just, have natural conversations.
Yeah,
I'm like,
nice. Yeah, that's super
Sage
cool.
advice.
I love his artwork, and his style is so cool. Definitely, he's been involved with some of the coolest graphics in movies, that is, in the last few years, like Ghost in the Shell and that kind of thing.
Right.
So badass.
And that's really that's where like the fine art of motion graphics. That's the canvas that's expressed on, is like movies, and you get like series, like Westworld.
Totally.
Or like the intro to Westworld.
Yep.
Beautiful.
That's
graphics.
an Octane render is used for that.
Yeah.
And it's so cool now with the tools that are available to digital artists. It's like one person like Ash Thorpe can create like a Hollywood movie's worth of graphics in like a few months.
Yeah.
And like, I know he didn't do all the work by himself, but like you can really create like most of those ideas to then be fleshed out by like the studios. But it's so awesome what one person can create now with like the right tools and the right amount of time put into their skills,
Yeah. So what is it about Houdini specifically that is that's also
Houdini, right? So Houdini is to give you a little bit of background. The guy who created Touch Designer used to work for the company that makes Houdini, and he was like, I want to basically build off of Houdini's concepts into real time. But Houdini is for like more traditional pipeline, but it's used for like some of the most advanced scenes in Hollywood, like when you're like blowing up a building or like a mountain is collapsing from a volcano and there's like explosions of lava and like it looks so realistic the way the physics are working. You can do all that kind of stuff in Houdini. You can do oceans and smoke simulations, and how you were kind of talking a little bit earlier this evening about how like Notch, for example, you can really easily connect all these different systems and drive, different systems. Houdini is like that, but like on steroids. And it's like, you can have this way Touch Designer can encapsulate, like have like layers of node systems within node systems that same thing in Houdini. You have all these different systems that you can connect and you can make them talk to each other, all like
nested networks
and like infinite amounts of connections where the particles are being spawned from these, this fluid system, which is generating a heat map to drive fire simulations in Pyro, and like, really like all the tricks that can be done in 3D, Houdini can do it.
Right.
And that's, which is kind of true in a cinema, something like Cinema 4D or Maya or some of the other packages, but like they're just not cut out for like the really high end VFX. They can't handle like 10 million, like an army of 10 million warriors. Whereas like Houdini could definitely do it.
So what happened to 3D Studio Max?
3ds Max is still around. It's definitely kind of taken a back seat to Cinema 4D when it comes to motion graphics, but
I thought it was like, I don't even consider them almost in the same ballpark.
They are, for sure. I'd say those are two of the most closely related. I'd say there's just a lot more competitors now, and Autodesk is the parent company to 3ds Max as well as Maya, and they're kind of still like the go-to if you're going into game industry through like a traditional like pipeline of like schooling, basically.
Those poor game industry kids.
Oh yeah.
I've heard stories.
I don't know if I'm shedding too many tears for them and their 6-figure paychecks.
Are you kidding me? I hear they get paid nothing.
I guess it probably depends.
And they work like insane hours. And
I think to them they get paid nothing. I still think like the starting salary is like pretty close to 100K if you're like have a salary. I think there's probably a lot of like indie game developers who like don't have a salary who are trying to make it.
No, I'm talking about the major studio guys. I heard they work insane hours.
They definitely work insane hours.
Yeah.
I think they get compensated reasonably well.
I hope so. I hope so.
I hope they do. Yeah, I certainly hope they do. But yeah, to go back to what I was saying, 3ds Max is definitely kind of taking a back seat. But recently I've been seeing there's a new plugin called TY Flow. And it's kind of like it's a particle software for 3ds Max. It's a free plugin in beta right now, and I've seen some really amazing stuff being done in like overnight with it. Like not that much time setting it up, which is this can kind of be the challenge with like stuff like X particles or even Houdini, is like learning how to set these things up. It's like all the tools are there, but how do you build it? And that's what it takes time to learn, and that's where the skill is, knowing which buttons to push and which things to plug in where. But like this new plugin TY Flow is supposed to be really cool, almost making me wish I worked in 3ds Max, but not really my thing.
Well, I mean, I like to be tool agnostic. I like to know enough about a number of different platforms.
It's kind of like about having access and time to learn them.
It's the time thing.
That's the time. And so there's not really a lot of reasons for me to learn 3ds Max if I know Cinema 4D or like Blender. Blender is free, and Blender can do almost everything that either of those other softwares can do. It's much less of an industry standard because it kind of came from like an open source development and was kind of like this kind of janky, weird, like it's like the Green Party candidate, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like the non-mainstream thing. And now Blender has been getting some major investment, still open source, still free. And now it's becoming much more of like a capable package. But like I would probably bounce to that if I somehow lost my access to Cinema 4D, which is more expensive.
Is Cinema 4D a subscription thing?
It is now. As of just a couple of months ago, they came out with a subscription. But prior to that, it was like, you could only get it through like a $3,000 like license purchase, like full license purchase. And I think that the cheapest version started at like $1,500 or $1,800, and and now I think you can get it for like $60 a month or something, pretty reasonable.
If you're making money off of a software,
yeah.
I always used to. So I have definitely pirated I have pirated software for the majority of my career, but most of it is getting myself to the point where I can use it effectively.
Totally.
All of the software that I make money on, I'd pay for.
Yeah, absolutely. We've all been there.
Of course.
We've all been down that road, and that's, I think for the most part, you know, unlike say like the music industry or the Hollywood film studios where they feel like every single download is losing them money out of their pockets.
Well, the music industry is extinct, man.
Right. Well, now it's all about streaming.
The traditional music industry.
And the companies, the industries or the record labels who were smart to catch on to the streaming thing are probably still making good money, making good contracts. But
yes,
the people who are just out there suing everybody for playing their music online, totally didn't get it, you know. But that being said, the software industry seems to be a lot more lax about like people downloading their stuff because they know at the end of the day, if you get to the point where you're, you know, in a position to be making money or working for a studio, you're helping drive future purchases of their software, even if you used it for free for a few years, you know. So
yeah, well, I mean, for the most part, from what I've experienced, kids who are pirating software are not
making bank.
They don't have enough money to pay for it anyway. So it's like either don't use the software or pirate it and become proficient in it. And then you can purchase it when you're making
professional.
Money.
Yeah, exactly. And once you get to that point where the show counts on you having software running smooth or the art installation needs to rely on stability or, you know, all of these things, then it becomes an easy call. It's like, I want to purchase software. I love purchasing software and having that like that fresh, up-to-date, you know, version with the latest features, you know, rather than being on some like outdated, pirated crack that you're like trying to read a forum from 2012 about particle illusion and how to.
Yeah, well, I mean, for us, it's like, you know, we're using like pixel mapping software in permanent installations, and we used to use Madrix.
Okay.
We still do use Madrix for some installations. But I distinctly remember having this conversation with our LED manufacturer in China who's like, do you want to buy China Madrix? And I'm like, what's China Madrix? They're like, oh, it's like half price. And I'm like,
that's awesome.
No, I'm going to stick with...
It seems like that's pretty rampant, especially in the lighting industry. Like everybody's just making the knockoffs, you know.
For hardware, but
I guess maybe not as much for software, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I've never seen a pirated version of Madrix, but I'm sure it exists. But the thing is, that's the last thing I would ever do.
Yeah.
Is
Madrix expensive?
It's very expensive.
Is it?
Yeah, gotcha. I mean, it depends on what you're doing.
For sure. And obviously that's kind of a relative question.
It is, and there's multiple tiers. Yeah. But usually lighting software is broken down by how many lights you're driving.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like if you're doing a
certain amount of universes.
Yeah, it's the same as media servers. You know, it's like how many 4K outputs do you want to drive?
Right.
If you're doing like a building, you probably need a lot of 4K outputs.
Yeah. And they're like, we're going to charge you $5,000 for this license because you should definitely be making money from this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas if you just want to do a 720p watermark version, you can get that for free.
Yeah, but at that point, the software is such a small part of the budget anyway that it doesn't matter.
Right.
They're just like,
totally.
There is no way I would risk having this installation glitch or fail or anything.
Totally. Yeah, it's funny too how like my own kind of opinions of like how expensive a software is too has changed when like, you know, I used to look at something like Resolume, you know, or even Cinema 4D is like, oh God, that's expensive. Like that's so expensive. That's got to be one of the most expensive softwares ever. And now I'm like, oh yeah, looking at like D3 and like, you know,
it's not D3
or Disguise.
Yeah,
sorry, Disguise.
I'd be very upset.
Avolites, you know, that kind of thing where it's like in the 5-6 figure range, and you know, it's like
yeah, man,
it's crazy. It makes some of the other ones seem pretty affordable.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for us, that is the main reason that we are working with the Smode guys, because the alternative, well, there's really no alternative for volumetric pixel LED mapping.
So you can't do that with touch?
You can, but
there's just a lot more overhead.
To develop our own solution in Touch Designer would take a team working for X number. I mean, it would still cost like $100,000.
Totally, yeah.
Or whatever. And granted, then we'd have
you can do it out of the box with Smode, more or less, huh? Or like now you can, because they developed that feature for you.
Yeah, and we're working with the developers.
And so which tier do you have to use to be able to like drive the work that you're doing? Because I know they have a free tier. Are you guys on the free tier?
No, not at all.
Gotcha.
So the system that we're using now to do, I don't know what to compare it to. It's like a building worth of LEDs, right? It's a very large scale volumetric pixel mapping installation. Is like in the 25K range for the whole shebang.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
Whereas if we were looking at, disguise, that would be 100K.
Yeah.
If you're, it's.
But if you do a touch designer, it would be like $3,000 or something for the license. But then you would need to spend probably $20,000 at least on development.
At least, man. Yeah. At least, and that's the problem. Is that like, I'm not interested in being a software development company.
Totally.
Not really. I don't have those resources.
Yeah, totally.
We're like a hardware company, and we're a design firm.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to focus on. So if I can I'm happy to spend other people's money on this group of developers over in France that are willing to play ball.
Yeah, totally.
I'm happy to support them.
Well, and it sounds like they're creating something that can also then be used by, presumably, you're not the only person who has this version of the software, right? It's a feature of the software.
Oh, it's a feature of the software.
Right. So that's something that now everybody can benefit from.
Totally.
So
and we're like awesome. Resellers for them. We're not like really pushing it super actively, but we're doing the US distribution. So when people are like, hey,
and what is the main limitation of the free tier versus like the next tier up? Do you know?
Oh, it's totally outputs.
Okay. Just outputs.
Yeah.
None of it has all the other features.
Yeah. Okay. It's 720p out.
Gotcha.
So it's like great for.
It's not that great, but it's okay.
It's great for like hobbyist or if you're doing like intro to VJing or whatever, and it's awesome to get to know the software.
For sure, yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, that's cool. You can't beat free with no watermark. That's
absolutely
not too many softwares doing that.
No, well, I mean, there's
especially with the capabilities of Smog.
That's how you like spread a meme, spread an idea, and have it grow. It's just give it away for free, let people get used to it, and say, hey, if you want to do anything that's valuable with this,
totally.
If you want to do anything that people are going to pay you money for,
I should have you give me a little demo while you're here, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we find time.
Yeah. Just
walk me around the interface for a minute.
Yeah,
I'd be stoked on that.
So this week we got to go to the disguise suite.
Okay.
They rent out the suite at the Hard Rock, and they've got panels and discussions all day. Cool. It's almost like a little like VIP room.
Okay.
Right, and it's just for media server nerds.
Gotcha. What's this? I keep hearing about Circle Bar. I hear Circle Bar is the place to hang out at.
It's like
just where a lot of people meet up.
It's basically, it's kind of like the meetup. There's still like hundreds of people around there at any given time, so it's kind of
totally.
Yeah, but it's the main bar at Hard Rock.
Right.
So yeah,
gotcha.
But we should run around for sure.
Yeah, man, that'd be cool.
You got your floor pass. I got my.
I don't have the badge yet, but I have I signed up.
Well, you got
a code and
access to your
Yeah, so we'll have a booth. We're part of the Dicolor LED booth. Dicolor is a company from Shenzhen that makes LED panels.
Oh, cool.
We have a collaborative partnership with them. We host like some of their panels at our showroom. And they hire us to make content and kind of have been working together on a few projects. We all have a booth there. We have kind of like a LED kind of sculpture that's like this like multi kind of stepped kind of thing that has LED panels going all the way around it. And we created a bunch of 3D content for it, where all the content is basically UV mapped. So it looks almost like it's like projection. It's like 3D, but it's actually LED panels. Definitely want to show off some of the content we made there. Hopefully we can meet up on the show floor and then go run around and check out some other stuff kind of outside of the convention maybe.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, definitely. It's all about the industry parties. Parties after the conference.
Totally.
And the classes. Do you know who Matthew Reagan is?
I do know Matthew Reagan.
He's around. He's doing classes with his girlfriend Zoe.
Yeah. I saw him on the lineup for some of the LDI stuff.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get lunch tomorrow.
Oh no, very nice.
Yeah,
that's super cool. Yeah, he's like the touch designer guru. Like him and like Keith Lestracco, pretty much like the be all end all when it comes to touch, at least for as far as I know, which is very limited. But I know enough to know that those guys are.
Well, they did that tutorial series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They kind of wrote the book on touch in some ways.
Yeah.
If you're learning through YouTube and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. My friend Karim, who you met earlier, is kind of our touch designer guy in house, and yeah, he was super stoked to hear he's going to be here.
Yeah, well, they've been here since Monday. I don't know what the hell they've been doing.
Well, I think some of the LDI like classes have been going since Monday. So if you like paid for a class, like the disguise training was like Monday, Tuesday. And then like black tracks training, I think, is like today or tomorrow or something. And so those are like before the public thing opens, I guess.
just didn't realize that it started on Monday.
Yeah, I know, me neither, because I was still kind of hoping to maybe go do the disguise training. And then I was like Tuesday and I was like looked at the schedule and I was like, oh wait, this already happened. It's over.
Yeah. Whatever.
So, there'll be another one.
Exactly, man. They, like I said, they do them. I think they do them every month in LA.
Cool. That's good to know.
I think.
That'd be fun to get out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting kind of more involved in some of the kind of community meetups. You know, Notch does some meetups in LA.
Yeah, they do.
Some in the Bay. I've never made it over to the ones in the Bay when I was in NorCal. But our buddy Karim went to one of the ones in LA and had a good time. Met a lot of the people. It's definitely like super tight knit community.
I was gonna say the guys from All of It Now.
Yeah.
In the Bay Area, they are very much involved with the disguise and Notch.
Totally, yeah. Kev Zoo and Berto, those guys are awesome. Definitely look up to them. I know our CEO at Melt has known Berto for a long time. Yeah,
he's I met him last year.
Cool. Yeah, they're really pushing the limits of the technology, so to speak, and integrating camera tracking like in real time AR stuff like that. So definitely watching what they're doing and always blown away. And Kev and Berto actually, but definitely Kev has a bunch of tutorials for Notch, and Berto has a handful too on their Vimeo pages that I've really enjoyed learning from. Kev has a really great teaching style and puts out these little quick tips where you learn something in like 30 seconds, watch 10 of those in 5 minutes and like feel like I leveled up for the night,
That's awesome.
So yeah, shout out Kev Zoo, definitely.
They're going to be here too.
Cool. Yeah.
They're going to be at the Disguise Suite.
Cool. Yeah. I definitely want to go over there. It'd be fun. When are you thinking you're going to be over there, tomorrow or Friday, or both?
I don't know, man. Tomorrow seems pretty packed.
Yeah. But
definitely Friday.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So.
Cool. Yeah. Maybe I can make it over there with you Friday after I get off work or something. That would be super fun.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow I'm definitely coming into Melt.
Yeah, please do, man. I want to show you around.
Absolutely.
Show you some of the toys, some of the software. Yeah. Some content.
Yeah. Well, this is good. I think we should call it.
Sweet. Let's call it.
A good couple hours.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun, man.
Yeah.